Welcome, everybody, to another Live Talk Tuesday. Due to a few technical difficulties and time zone mix-ups, we're going live at the not quite the right time, a little bit after for you and a little bit before what I had thought originally. So I want to welcome Kristen to Live Talk Tuesday, and today we are going to be talking with her about her journey from start until present of her gastric bypass surgery. So welcome, Kristen. Thank you so much for joining us today. So the first question I want to ask you is, how long ago did you actually have the surgery itself?
It was. Thank you. And that's your puppy.
Yep. It's live TV is great.
Live TV. And thanks so much for having. Does
what?
What are his questions? What is the puppy's question?
I'm not exactly sure, but I'm hoping whatever he's barking at walks away soon.
He's just a stand for being heard right now.
He definitely is. He likes live TV.
I love it. Okay.
Okay. So, it sounds like he's went to the other side of the house, so it's all good.
Okay, cool. So I had it in 2006, early 2006.
Okay.
So like 12 years ago. It'll be 12 years in, actually, no, it'll be 13 years this coming February. Actually.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
So I know a couple people that have actually had the surgery, and I know there was like some, life altering moments that kind of led up to it. And they were like, this is, I have to make this decision now for my own sake and for my own health and stuff. So what actually led you up to like finally, because that's a big decision. This is a major surgery. So what brought you to that decision?
So yeah, this was a major surgery, and there actually are a couple different kinds of weight loss surgeries, which we can get into later, and I'll share which one that I had. But it was really just after kids, in the manual that you're given about life and having children, like there's not
the manual. Yes, I didn't get that one.
Yeah. They you don't get the part of, what could possibly change, like all that stuff. And it was, we had our first child when I was 19. And up until before I was pregnant, I never had issues with weight. Weight definitely is an issue in my family. And I didn't have it, but after I had the kids, I just noticed it started to like, come on and come on and come on. So I just got to the point where I had it that I tried everything. I did Weight Watchers. I don't know. Did you ever hear of Curves?
Yeah.
Did you ever hear that? Yeah, I did that. Just everything. Like I tried it, and I was just at a loss because I was fearful. My dad was struggling with his weight and his health, which actually ended up, turns out a month after I had my surgery, we lost my dad. He was 54. And that was, health issues, which, it all, health, heart, all that stuff, related to weight. So I was afraid, and I had a family, so I needed to do something. And it was just like, let's just see if, I think this is going to be it. And it was literally a year from the time I decided until the time I had it. And I didn't tell everybody. I didn't even tell John until after I went to my primary care and just had that conversation of what that would look like. And then I had a conversation with him, and there were people that weren't aligned with it. He was totally supportive. There were people who weren't aligned, and it wasn't because of, me not doing the right thing or, judgment as far as they were concerned. It was a real just concern of, are you going to be okay? So yeah, it was just, that's the stuff, just family history around health and wanting to be there for my kids and my family. So
absolutely. So that it was a pretty big why that you had. And I applaud you for, being open with it. I know you had said that no question is off limits. And I know a lot of times in this case, a lot of people judge when you make that decision to have this surgery, because some people think it's an easy way out or it's a quick fix. And I can tell you that I know people who've had it, and it's not an easy way out, because there's no messing up on your diet. There's no cheating and sneaking in extra stuff, because afterwards it's not allowed. So I do have a question before I know you said nothing was off limits. So just for the audience sake, because I know some people are like, oh, well, so-and-so had it and they really weren't overweight. They could have done something else, or so-and-so's really, really overweight and they should have it. If you don't mind, what's first of all, we know, let's give your height, because that's a little different. But at that point, when you got there,
that
right. Well, because you're short and sweet. So yeah, what was your weight? What was the highest weight?
265.
And how tall are you?
And 5 feet.
Yeah.
And really what I lost was 120 pounds. And it's funny, when you go through that weight loss, you get to this point where you go really, really, really low, like below where you even thought you would be. And then that's not generally where you stay. Like then it kind of goes up a little bit. And then your mind, we can talk about the mind, the terror that it plays on your mind as well, if you want to at some point during this interview. But so basically I've been able to, I play within like 20 to 25 pounds. Like I kind of go like in that range. And right now I'm at the point where I need to get a hold of that 20 pounds and bring it back down. I had a double knee replacement 2 years ago, and that played a fun part in my mind for the last year or so, just recreating a lifestyle. That's all.
Definitely. And being in that space where you're like, I know this is another surgery I'm going through, but I can make it through this, So do me a favor and take us on a little journey, a short little journey of where you were, like, let's just say the few weeks coming up to the surgery, well, obviously not during, but after the surgery, recovery wise, because I know that there's certain steps that you have to take afterwards, that, introducing certain foods and things like that. So take us through that up until like where you found like, oh, this is my new normal and it's really not that bad type thing.
Right. Okay, cool. So and feel free to interrupt me at any time if there's something that
I'll raise my hand if I
and maybe I'll call on you. No, I'm only kidding. Yeah, so it was so really, like I said, it was a year. It was almost like a year process of, from the time of deciding that this could be a possibility to when I had it. And there's actually, and I have to give a shout out to Newton Wellesley Hospital in Massachusetts. Their team is so phenomenal. They were amazing. And so what you do is you go in, you have an initial appointment, and you meet with the doctor. And actually, John came with me too. We met with the doctor. This was like a 3 to 4 hour appointment. You meet with the doctor, you meet with the nutritionist, you meet with the psychiatrist. You literally go through the whole thing. Like they got to make sure, they're very, very intentional in making sure that like you're in the game, right? And making sure that who's ever your partner, like who's ever with you, that they're in the game, because it doesn't work to
right.
not be on, creating a team around this. So we did that, and, they asked him many questions and they asked me many questions. And then what happens is after there, you have to go through, you have a notebook, and I had to go to classes leading up to it. And I had to have my notebook signed and whatnot. And they set you up there. They wanted you to lose like so much weight, like a little bit of weight beforehand. And really what that is just to show that you have like mentally, you're in the place to be making this decision. Because when I look back now, Melanie, it's like I still had to make the same life changes that I would have had to have made without the surgery.
Absolutely.
Right? Make it very, very clear that the surgery is just a tool. That's all
Absolutely.
it is.
Absolutely. Yes.
I'll tell you right now, like there is no maintenance in weight loss surgery, like none. Like it's a tool to help you get started and create that journey, and get to that end result for your health of what you're looking for. But there is no maintenance. You can, I mean, there, when I was in those meetings, there were people there that were going to look to have it a second time or a third time,
Wow.
you know,
Wow.
and, you know, your stomach can stretch if you don't change those habits. Right. Um, and I was like fully committed. I'm like, this is like a total, like, this is a big deal. And if I'm going in, I'm going in 100%.
Right.
So we did, and you know, I went through and did all the everything that I was supposed to do. Lost the little bit of weight that was, you know, that I was told that I was requested strongly to lose, and then the surgery came. After the surgery, I didn't have any complications really during the surgery or after. The I believe it was that one, I'm trying to remember, but get a little bit dehydrated, which is pretty common after a surgery if you're not, because like if you're not feeling great and you don't want
Right.
to drink, whatever, but it's so huge, it's so important because there's not a worse feeling than being dehydrated after surgery.
Mm.
It's like affects everywhere. But so then you know, you had to go to so many follow-ups afterwards and that whole thing. And it was really just trying to find your, like, for about a year you go, so you're on like liquid for, you know, a little while after. And it was so long ago, I don't remember the actual, like, how many weeks or how many months,
Right.
whatever. Then you can go on a blended diet. But what I do remember is, like, you know, I had to literally look for things that were like no sugar added. And when I started, this was kind of my journey into really looking at reading labels, nutrition
Yeah.
labels, because I had to look at, when I would look at what, I was so surprised at the things that had sugar in it that I had no idea. Right. So I really had to look at the sugar. And I didn't always have a sweet tooth. Like, literally, salt is my thing. Like, salt is my, like, I remember at one point just sucking on a goldfish. And it was like, I couldn't eat it. Like, I'm like, let me just suck on and it was one, and one was fine. Right. And it's funny to this, like, one was fine. That right there is a mindset shift, because before, one wouldn't have been enough. Right.
Exactly. Right.
And that, I took on too. Like, it's okay if I don't clear my plate. You know, it's okay if I don't eat that whole entire bag of chips. Like, and that's one of the things where, for me, there wasn't really anything that was completely off limits, right? But what I did was, I was like, if I wanted something, I would have it, but I would have a bite of it, or
Right.
I would have like a little bit of it. So that's kind of that. And that doesn't work for everybody. That's a total, like, individual thing. You know,
Right. Right.
they know they can't have that. They can't have one bite. So they just don't go there. Um, and there's a big issue with, like, sugar and the dumping syndrome and whatever. And so I really had to be careful of the sugar. It was actually a year that it was a year until I could start, um, eating pasta and eating beef. Those two things are really hard to digest, which pasta, now that we know the gluten, like all that stuff, like, it would just sit, like, I can't do regular white pasta anymore. I can't. I either have to do, you know, a whole grain or, brown rice, which is, the brown rice pasta is the best on my belly. But, you know, beef I'm okay with now. But yeah, it took a long time for that. Dairy, I don't even really do a lot of dairy, because it just doesn't, I mean, I'll do like eggs and yogurt and stuff like that. But yeah, I don't really do that anymore. And actually, I should share, the type of weight loss surgery that I had is, gastric bypass. So that's when they go in and they do, like, take off part of your stomach. And what they also do is they bypass a lot of your intestine. So that's where the dumping comes from, because it literally, like, when you eat something, the sugar goes, you know, right through. It doesn't have time to. So that's where, like, if you and I were to eat the same thing, right? It's going through less of my intestine. So it's not gonna, like, it does, like, I don't get as many calories from it per se as you would, right? But
Gotcha.
also, I also don't get the same level of nutrients from it that you do.
Right. And that's what I was going to ask, with you having certain, and like you said, everybody's different. I don't want to call them triggers, but certain things that your body just doesn't digest right after the surgery, that it just doesn't agree with your body. And some of it is actually things that our body needs, the nutrients. Right. So I know a lot of people that, protein is a thing that because beef, like you couldn't have that. Some people, those kind of meats, they just don't work with them. So they're lacking in protein, they're lacking in vitamins, nutrients, all this stuff. Was that something that you noticed was an issue for you? And if so, how did you work with that? How did you overcome it and be to where you can feel good, to where you didn't feel tired? Because I know when you're lacking certain nutrients, your body's like running on empty. It's running on fumes. So how did that work with you?
Yeah. So they are like, vitamins and supplements is something that they strongly recommend that you get on. Like I was literally probably taking 12 supplements a day, like between, I was taking B12, I was taking calcium, I was taking iron, I was taking magnesium, I was taking vitamin C, I was taking a multivitamin, in like multiples of each of those. So what I found, and I was faithful, like I was like OCD with all this. Like I said, when I took this on, I took it on 100%.
Right.
And I did that for like what I still found, honestly, and this, again, everything that I'm saying is just me. This doesn't apply to like everybody. And I'm certainly not a doctor and would never tell anybody to do or not to do something. For me, that type of supplementation didn't work. My body wasn't absorbing it. And so what I did was I had to go outside the box. And once I took on actually the plant-based and herbal supplementation, that's when, I went from having iron infusions in the hospital. Like
I was going to ask, yeah.
Yeah, like every 6 weeks. And still being low on, my iron and all that stuff. And you got to be careful with that stuff. Like you can't take iron with calcium. Like there's certain things you can't take together because your body doesn't absorb it. Right. So it was talk about like I needed more schedule in my life with 3 kids. Right. Like, schedule your supplements, but,
right.
Yeah. So I was all set. And that was a couple of years of that, like taking that on. And it even took me a while to be honest with my doctor's office that I wasn't doing the supplementation that they said. Right. So once I took on the, like I said, the herbal approach to it and the herbal supplements, and then of course I started, because I wanted to know why, like I started to learn why those supplements weren't giving me what I needed. It was because generally, as we know, I'm not telling you anything you don't already know, but with store-bought, supplements and whatnot, it's, there's a lot of fillers and synthetics and that kind of thing. So your body just doesn't absorb those things as it should. So not to say that I wasn't getting some supplementation from that stuff. I just wasn't getting what I needed, Gotcha. And as we know, our nutritional value of our food is so depleted. Like we can't just bank on our food anymore.
Right.
Really the key, like as far as you mentioned, like protein and all that stuff, it's really just finding a high quality protein meal replacement that worked for me. That is where, and I also found supplementations for like right now, like I take activated sprouted greens, I put that in my drinks. So I get, what I'm doing is I'm going outside the box, outside, our regular whole foods and getting what my body needs. And I am not on I'm not on any of those crazy supplements anymore. I'm totally 100% around like the herbal ones that I use. And that's what has been making a difference for me.
Okay. So with this is something that when you were talking about the fillers and things like that, and, certain things irritate our stomachs with or without a gastric bypass surgery. Did you notice any difference as far as, did you notice maybe you were having any kind of reactions when you were taking store-bought supplements versus what you're using now? And did you notice that maybe prior to going to the all-natural supplementation, meal replacement, do you notice now that maybe you're able to eat and tolerate a couple more things versus what you were tolerating before?
It's funny that you say that. I mean, I noticed it's funny because as soon as I went, like when I went to the herbal supplementation, like I noticed that I actually feel better. Before, when I was on the other supplements, like I didn't physically feel a difference in myself, but like with these supplements that I'm using now is like I actually feel like I notice if I forget to take them, or I notice if I don't, like my energy levels are good. My focus is good. And that's all because, I mean, there's such a huge difference, working with the adaptogenic herbs. I mean,
Right.
that's just huge. And, I, with that, and what I got too was that, the, yeah, it was just my energy. And and it's funny that you asked that, can I tolerate things now that I couldn't before? Like I haven't really stepped into that. Like there's a little bit of fear.
Right. Oh yeah.
And only like I know like ice cream is something that I can maybe have one bite, but I just don't go. If I do, like I pay for it. It's something, and I'm sure it's probably the dairy and the sugar in that.
Right. Right.
Like white pasta, it's not necessary for me to eat white pasta. So like there's no reason for me to go there with it.
To be like, let me just see how it reacts.
Yeah,
Let me see if I could feel sick.
yeah. And really, like I said, like the mindset shift that I had around food was really just knowing when enough was enough and not get to that point that I was like full or, over. And I did notice too, like, you can be on there are so many like protein sources, right? Through like meal replacements and all that stuff. And sometimes you don't know what you don't know. Right. And I noticed most recently, switching to a different type of protein. Really, I noticed how less bloated I am. I didn't know I was bloated before.
Right.
Because I felt better than I did before that. Right. So with this and the level of like, what I say, like, and I'll just share like the soul products that I use. That's where I found has made a huge difference for me. And with them, it's kind of like the top shelf liquor, right? Top shelf liquor, versus like mediocre,
Right.
or what. So I've really noticed a difference literally with everything like digestive, all that stuff. So I think it's a combination really, Melanie, of like finding what works for you,
Exactly.
finding these, this holistic way through the herbal blends, like that has made a difference. And my mindset, like what I do, like the actions that I take and the actions that I don't take, totally.
And that's where I wanted to go next was mindset. Cause I know most people, okay, like we all have this mindset about how weight loss is supposed to go. And we have this, weight diet mentality of this is exactly how it's supposed to go. And most people who are going through, like you said, you went through a whole year full of like, am I ready for this type of counseling, training, developing all that stuff into like, I'm going to have a totally different life that I'm going to have to learn how to adjust to. So it's an adjustment without having a surgery. So tell me where you went as far as like mindset, because I know we beat ourselves up without a surgery as far as what we're supposed to eat, how much we're supposed to eat, how we're supposed to feel. That's huge when it comes to just day-to-day meal planning, what kind of dieting meals you're supposed to eat. I hate going on a diet. I hate that word. It's stupid. But I say when you have a diet, not go on a diet. So what was that difference? What changed for you? How did that work? Because I'm sure it was a ride. I'm sure it was definitely an adjustment and a change. So how was that mindset wise for you?
Well, the mindset wise was actually seeing what didn't work before. Like, what was it that I was or wasn't doing before that had me be where I was? Right. So, looking at it, and I would be so frustrated because I would be careful with, I had it that I was being careful with what I was eating. We didn't eat out all the time. We didn't do this. And if you saw like how I packed my kids and took them out, you'd be like, wow, that's pretty awesome. I mean, we always, I was on top of their health, their food, as far as eating, vegetables and, all that stuff and having it prepared. But what I realized was like, breakfast, I wouldn't eat breakfast, so it was a lot around my habits. Like if you saw me, you would be like, she totally like eats bonbons and doesn't do anything all day. Right. When in reality, somebody who was 110 pounds probably ate more than I did,
Right.
what happens. And this is what I got educated with through the doctors was, what was happening was like, I was eating, I would eat dinner, and it wasn't that I would eat twice as much just because I didn't eat lunch or, whatever, but it was like, say I wouldn't eat breakfast because I'm busy getting the kids ready or whatever, and then, I might eat half of their peanut butter and jelly sandwich that they didn't finish or whatever, and, not make myself a sandwich. And then I would eat dinner. Now, would there sometimes be snacks in between? Like, yeah, absolutely. Would we sometimes go out to dinner? Like, yeah, of course. Would I do a drive-through here or there? Yes, of course. But that wasn't our daily. What I got was that what happens is your body goes into starvation mode. So at that point, it didn't matter really what I was eating because of the state that my body was in. It was storing everything as fat.
Right.
Right. So just imagine, this is what I related it to. Just imagine having your body store a salad the same way it would store a cheeseburger.
But that's not fair. That's not real fair.
So really just looking at what I did was I looked at, what was I not doing? So I knew that I needed to, after I got educated and really learned what needed to happen, I'm like, okay, I need breakfast. And I'm not a big breakfast person. So a shake is perfect for me,
right?
Because it's going to give me that nutritional value that I need. It's going to give it to me in the way that my body can actually absorb it. Right.
Which is huge.
Yeah. Absorption is huge. I mean, not just, through food and through, supplementation. So it was really just, looking at those areas that were missing and putting it in. And like I ended up finding, and more so this past year, just working out, exercise is a huge thing for me. Like about 3 years after my surgery, I got into doing mixed martial arts, and that was like life. Like that was like at one point we did like our whole family would go together.
Nice. Yeah.
Talk about like a high intense workout. Like, I don't know if there's a crazier workout than that. But I became obsessed with it, right? Like I truly became obsessed with it and it was amazing. And then it was like, then I started running. And as soon as, between both of those, it was like, then my knees crashed. Right. And, really being so overweight for so long, the pressure, because you carry 4 times your body weight on your knees. Like that's what your knees carry. So it was just like literally like killing the cartilage that was in there, was gone. Like I just killed whatever was left. I'm like, yeah, just go. So that's where the knee replacements came in. And then I had to like I was in such an awesome, like, this is good. This is perfect. I got my food right. I got my nutrition right. I found my happy place.
Right.
And when I had the double knee replacements, I did them both at the same time because I'm like, I am not going down twice. And this falls under the mindset, right? Like I got fearful, right? Because now things are getting mixed up again, right? And for the first year after my knee replacements, like I did good. And I was out, like, I mean, my recovery was like stupid awesome. Like I was bringing in weights and all that stuff to my at home, like the workouts that I had to do at home, to get that to, whatever. But then it was like after a year and I started to feel better as far as my knees, then I'm like, okay, I need to put in some sort of workout. And I couldn't find something that I loved because I was comparing it to MMA,
Yeah.
And I didn't find, so that I paid a price for that. Now I have like 25 pounds that I got to lose because of that.
Right.
So the mindset has such a huge impact on what you take on, and really just not making yourself wrong. There's like that really thin line between not making yourself wrong and letting it be an excuse to not do what you're supposed to do.
Right.
Every one of us can relate to that somehow. Right.
Yes.
you know, totally. So it was mindset. And then you have the whole, I mean, we can talk about the whole judgment and, you know, just seeing people and as you're losing weight, that
Right.
was
Right. Oh yeah. Some people don't, they don't say anything because they don't want the judgment. They don't want people to judge them because so many people, like you said, some of them were in there for a second surgery. So I like where you went with it when you said, this is a tool. This was a tool to start my journey.
mm-hmm.
And then we talked about your journey. That was a roller coaster ride. And, you know, if you know how I say, sometimes your arms are up, sometimes they're not up. You're enjoying it. And then you're not. You're like, oh my gosh, this is a terrible roller coaster ride. I'm going to puke. But
Yeah.
with or without surgery, a weight loss journey is exactly that. It's a journey, and it's lifestyle changes, it's permanent lifestyle changes, it's mistakes, it's realizing that you're human, it's saying to yourself, it's okay. You know, I'm making the right decisions, but we have to realize that it doesn't always go according to plan. And when it doesn't, we have to be okay with it and realize that, like you said in the beginning, I wanted to do this for my family. I wanted to do this because of what happened with my father. Like, you knew why, and you still have that same why today. And I always feel like that's so important. And you needed a tool to help you on that, to help jumpstart that journey. And that's what the surgery was, you know, with you. And, you know, knowing you as a person and having conversations with you about this, about, you know, like, hey, what can you eat? All these things. And it's just things that people don't really realize. It's the same thing, like with or without the surgery. And I'm not saying like, oh, you shouldn't have done the surgery, Kristen. You know, I honestly, I feel like people who've had the surgery go through so much more as far as like I said in the beginning, you can't mess up. You can't, because you could be like very sick. Your stomach will be like, that's not happening. No, you're not eating this today. So it's not like you can overeat because it won't let you, you know, like you will throw up. Am I correct? Like some people
Yeah.
have gotten to where they're like, I throw up.
And really, and it's crazy because it can be one bite. It can literally be one bite that
Oh
puts
yeah.
you at the edge. So you got to really train your mind at the same time. And, you know, it breaks my heart because there are some people that I've heard and have talked to that, like, you know, they'll go in it and they'll take it as a solution and not a tool,
Right.
right?
Right.
And when you take it as a solution, they don't really take on making those changes. You know, they don't take on going from eating a sub and a bag of chips every single day to, I need to put, you know, I need to really pay attention to this. You know, should you still be able to have a sub and a bag of chips for lunch? Hell yeah. Like, I'm not shutting myself off of all that, you know, but it's like just knowing like the mindset. And I'll tell you, when you're heavy like that, like it is, there was never a time that like I would sit in public and if I was having a sub or if I was having an ice cream cone or if I was having something, I was constantly like, I should not be having this. People are looking at me thinking, and I've had comments by actually people that I thought were my friends.
Right.
It was, I can't believe Kristen brought a tray of cookies. Like she should be bringing like a tray of vegetables. You know, I've been sitting at, you know, a dinner in a restaurant where, you know, they would order a couple pieces of, you know, a couple different desserts. And when it came to me, somebody literally like put their hand over my mouth, like, don't take a bite. Like, can you imagine what that feels like to someone?
Very
Like,
belittling. Yeah, that's not.
yeah. And it's like, wow, okay.
Or they give that, I hope you don't gain your weight back type thing. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
not.
And this was even too, like this stuff happened before I lost weight, you know, and then, you know, what happens like as I was losing the weight, like I was feeling weird about going into public, like after losing 50 pounds. Cause, and this is important too. I probably lost the first 50 pounds effortlessly, right? It didn't take a lot.
Right.
After that, I had to put the work in. Like,
Yeah.
I've had to put the work in every single day since, you know, and it's really the decisions that you make every day. And there's still a lot of, you know, there's a lot of judgment and there's a lot of like, you know, I get questioned on, you know, it being the easy way out. And I'm like, dude, you have no idea.
Yeah.
Like it is, you know, the mind thing that it does to you is you make yourself wrong. There's judgment. There's, why couldn't I do this by myself? There's like a sense of failure. There's so much
Oh
that, which
yeah.
meet with a psychiatrist. And you still, like, I still go to my appointments, like to now, like 12 years later. You know, I did have a couple years in between that I wasn't as consistent, but I go to my appointments with my gastrologist
Right.
like every year, you
Right.
know, and that is so important. You know, and I've also taken on, you know, like having a private group on Facebook that, you know, I just give people the space to really kind of share what's there and, you know, whatnot. So yeah.
I mean, I feel like it's so hush hush when someone has it, and it's so awesome when you can sit and someone can share the story. You know, you shared your journey, and it's definitely not a one-time fix. It's definitely something that there's an upkeep to it. It just says there is. I mean, it's your health. There's an upkeep to our health on a daily basis, and some people have to work harder than others, and some people we don't like that don't have to work so hard at it. But whatever. But I mean, it's a lot of choices. It's a lot of mindset shifting. It's a lot of adjusting your lifestyle to fit the new you. So if someone were to, you know, like anybody watching this, if someone knows someone who's contemplating, like, do I go for it? Do I have it? What advice would you give them?
I would, it's funny because I get questions like that all the time. And one more thing to add to the mindset before we go on, a whole other aspect of weight loss surgery is the extra skin, which is
Yes.
something that people don't talk about. And that there have been people that have said, like, I preferred it when like my skin was full because it was tight. It may have
Right.
been full of stuff that you don't want, but it was tight. And there's nothing more, like, I don't wear shorts. I don't. There's certain things. I did end up having abdominoplasty actually because I had to have a hysterectomy. So they just did that at the same time because with the extra skin and when you're working out and whatever, you could, like, I was getting sores. It sounds gross.
Yes.
It's a
No, yeah,
reality.
yeah. No, I know what you mean.
Like underneath, and it just wasn't, it was awful. And then it just smells gross and, you know, you're just insecure, you know, but for more so it was because of the issue with the sores and all that stuff that I had that done. And, you know, arms, it's not that often that I, you know, when I was in my workout mode of like on target, like I started to wear tank tops. And now I would, I'm not really sure about that, you know, but all that stuff, even when I was at my goal, you know, like where I was, those are the things that still, you know, like how could I be a size 6 really, or a size 8 and not feel comfortable wearing shorts?
Right.
It just, so that stuff is always there. So there's some things that don't ever change, you know, because of it's just constantly working on it. But yeah, so what I would say to somebody that is thinking about it or considering it or whatnot is like, really just have them get to the core of, are you ready to make these changes? Like have them, you know, the conversations that I have is like, this is not, like, really get to find out what it is that, why they're having it, you know, and what it is that they're willing to put in, you know.
Right.
Thing is, I look like to see how educated they are around it, first of all, you know, how they're educated, what it is, and are they ready for literally a life change? And I let them know, because this is kind of a whole, this part isn't just me, but if you're going to have it, you're going to have to make these life changes.
Oh
So
yeah.
the only difference is you have an extra tool in your toolbox, but as far as maintenance, like it's all you 100%, you know. So really just, you know, find somebody that has had it, find, you know, have that conversation. And I am always 100% willing to have that conversation with anybody. I will not, like I told you, you're my friend, but with anybody, like there are people watching this that I have no idea who they are. You know, there's no question that's off. And I don't have to tell you this twice, but I am a straight shooter. Like I'm going to say how it is, and I'm going to ask you what there is. And it may be uncomfortable.
Right.
You know, but you got to be, if you're not, like, you got to be okay with being uncomfortable, you know? So yeah, those are really the questions I have. Just get to the root of why you're doing it.
Right.
And are you really ready for that lifestyle change?
Right. It's a lot of being honest with yourself. Like, am I ready for this? Is this something that I'm ready to take this long journey on? Because it is not, some people go in and they think, like you said, the first 50 pounds were easy. The rest you had to work at. So it was allowing you that tool in the beginning. And then it comes to this where it slows down type thing. And you're like, okay, now I have to learn the lifestyle. I have to do these things. I have to change this and change that. And I think that's huge when it comes to anybody, but more so with the mindset of going into a surgery like this, going into this life-altering surgery that, sometimes can have complications afterwards, sometimes can have illnesses afterwards. And like you said, some people come in for a second time around. Now with that, is that because, like I've heard, like, oh, they've busted staples, or like what causes them to have to go for a second one? I don't want to be like, I don't want to take up too much more of your time, but this is one that I'm huge on.
John actually, he left so that he would be quiet. He went to get a haircut, so we're good. But no, it's a lot of times having the second time around, from what I've experienced with people, in conversations, is, they either just gained the weight back because they just gradually started to, as they were able, they would eat a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. And
Gotcha.
they didn't, the fact that they would get sick, like stand in between that, because they weren't there here.
Gotcha. Yeah. Oh yeah. That's huge.
Huge. And there's a lot of, now I look back mindset wise where I was, like, I've learned and I've come so far, right? Like, I knew that I didn't do it then because I didn't believe that I could on my own.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's where I was. Now I have a whole different level of like belief in myself now, but still then that was what I needed to take on at that point. And some people just don't grow in that way. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, they
absolutely. Yeah.
Because it's not like, we're in this work of mindset, right? Like, we work with this day in and day out, not only with ourselves, but with other people, and people that aren't in that world of that all the time. Like that, can you imagine the struggle?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Really have to make that happen. And, so, and sometimes, I mean, there are complications, and I think now they've come so far,
yeah,
with it that, I think they're kind of few and far between, but definitely it is such a huge, and another thing too, that I really talk to people about is, the support that they have around them.
Right. That's what I was going to say. I feel that that everyone needs to realize that if this is a choice they want to make, and they know that in their heart of hearts that this is something they need, something they want, something they know will benefit them, that no matter what happens afterwards, you're not alone. There's people out there that have, like you said, find someone who's done it before. There's people out there, and if anybody listening to this is like, I am in this roller coaster ride and all I'm doing is going through the upside down circle and I want to throw up, I can't put my arms up, Kristen will definitely reach out to her. She will definitely answer any questions that you have. I do appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule to be on my Live Talk Tuesday. It's great to have you. Is there anything else that you want to add to, anything maybe I didn't ask that you were like, oh, I hope she asks that, I want to say it?
I know, because I always am at a loss for words, right? Yeah.
Me too.
I know, right? No, everything. I think, finding, like we said, finding the support, in your doctor's office, generally will have support groups. I know my doctor's office actually has, like, I'm about an hour and a half away from where I had it done, but they actually have support groups down here on the Cape. And it's actually not just for their own patients. Like, they open it up to anybody and everybody, which is amazing. But, make sure, like, whoever your partner is, like, make sure that, you have that support.
Right.
Like, you're
That's huge.
Support, and just like I talk about, like, on, when you're creating your business and you're creating, your business schedule, include your family. Like it has to, your family has to be a part of creating it. You know, it can't just be what works for you.
Right.
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 So it's like, you know, having your kids be a part of it, having your husband be a part of it, you know, like just having whoever those people are that are with you every single day, just have them be part of it and have it be a partnership versus something that you're going through. Because they don't know what they don't know.
Absolutely. Yeah. Including them in just anything and things like that. When you include them, it's more of a team effort. And you've, like you said, you have that close support, you know, and then knowing that there's other people that have had this, you can reach out to them too. But when you don't have that close knit, just those people that maybe you're sharing a house with that don't understand, bring them into it. It's okay. Don't be afraid of the judgment, because this is a new life that you're living, and you want them involved in it because you love them and they love you. And I think that's huge. And I think that's the perfect way to bring everything to a close here, because, you know, we've talked about the mindset, the support, the understanding of it being, you know, a lifestyle change, and it's a journey, and it's not always perfect, and you're not alone. I think that covers a lot of life itself, but this journey with this kind of surgery. And, you know, I acknowledge you for bringing your story out into the open. I know you've done a complete blog series. Am I correct? Was it a blog series you did on this?
I believe it was a 8 or 9 part blog series that literally took you from every stage and every step.
Absolutely. So if that's something that you're willing to share in the comments, like just a link to the blog, and then I would think they all link together, I'm sure people would love to read that and get more into Kristen's world. Because why wouldn't you want to, right? Because why not? So yeah, with all of that being said, if anybody has any questions, feel free to post them in the comments. I know we kind of came on outside of the time that I had said scheduled, because I had the time zones off. So some people might be like, oh wait, why did you go live? Why did you do your show already? Because we did, and it worked. And thank goodness for live TV, barking dogs, and the recording for being up there.
And we'll be adding time zone training into Melanie's training and development. Yeah.
I was in the wrong hour. So so with all that being said, I just want to thank everybody for watching us. I want to thank you, Kristen, for joining us today. And we will catch everybody next week. So between now and then, everybody have a nice Thanksgiving, unless of course you're in Canada. I think you already had a Thanksgiving. So we'll see everybody later. Have a great day. Bye-bye.